Hello, and thank you to my 655 partners. I want to walk through today with the recommended proposal for the Schnucks partners. Again, comes with a full recommendation of our bargaining committee. And with this, I want to walk through not only the changes in the contract, but also go through the document a little bit. As you can see from the document, anything that is marked with the red language is something that's seen as a negative in the contract. Anything that is in blue is going to be language that's neutral or cleanup, doesn't really have a change to it. And anything that is in green is going to be a positive change for our partners. Anything that's still in black, it's going to be no change. It's going to be the same language from the previous contract. So I'll go through each one of these step by step, and I'll call attention to a lot of the changes that may have a direct impact and probably has an effect on whether or not you would vote yes on this contract. But it does have a full recommendation of our bargaining committee, and we are recommending that you vote in favor of this contract. We've got a couple other items that have changed in the substance abuse language, and that would be Article 11. It starts on page 4. First and foremost, in Article 11.6, the company requested, and we granted, I think it's we can see it as a neutral change, but if someone is having a problem on the job, and there's actually the idea that substance abuse could be the problem, we can now address for anybody that is misusing their prescriptions. It would fall under the same language as any other substance abuse. This is reviewed by a medical review officer, so the information there as to what prescription someone may be on or the results of it is still confidential. It is not given to Schnucks directly. But the medical review officer, on seeing the levels of the substance abuse, can point out to Schnucks that someone may be having a problem on the job, and it would be related to the levels of the prescription drug that they are taking. One key thing with this, and it's added into the very bottom of the first paragraph in 11.6, is that employees that are disciplined, if you had an employee that was having an issue on the job and it finds out that it could be related to prescription drug misuse, there is no additional random testing throughout the next year, but you are subject to discipline even if it's a misuse of prescription drugs. The second part of the change on substance abuse on page 5, and we see this as a positive, something that we've been dealing with over the last 2 years leading into these contract negotiations. Under the current policy that Schnucks has, is that if anyone has marijuana or THC in their system, especially if they are involved in an injury on the job, because of the marijuana or THC showing up in the drug test that they do every time that someone has an injury on the job, that would result in a final warning along with a 30-day suspension and would rely for the additional random test upon returning to work. We've changed that in this contract, and that's why we see this as a positive. Because both in Missouri and Illinois, marijuana and THC is something that can be used not only under a medical advisory, but could also be done recreationally. And the other aspect of it is that THC can show up in a substance abuse or a drug test within over the last 30 days. We wanted to make sure and address that. So now the change in this is that in issues where THC is available, and this would be again on an injury on the job, then the employee would receive a final warning still. However, there is no suspension associated with the drug test itself or the positive of THC in the system, and there is no random testing over the next year. So that'll be something that you can receive the final warning, and there is no other discipline should there be any problems. So we see that as a positive change under this contract. And this is something that is a minor thing, but again, it ties along with if laws change. So the first change on funeral leave is that we had in there that same-sex domestic partners would fall under the funeral leave. There was never an intention to have that as a specific thing lined out only for same-sex domestic partners, and there was never an intention to open it up completely to domestic partners either. So we are taking out the language of same-sex domestic partner. We no longer need that language. However, we do have a change to the bottom of the paragraph, in that in the event that same-sex marriage becomes illegal, if the Supreme Court or somebody strikes that down where it's no longer seen as legal, again, we are still grandfathering that into the contract so that we still have that for our partners going forward. And we see that as a positive with the changes there. And now let's talk about your health and welfare benefits. And this starts on page 6 of the proposal. Currently, under your current contract, the company pays $4.75 for every hour worked towards your benefits. The company on this proposal, which you can see on page 6, they're going to start paying $5.68 per hour towards those benefits. There are also a couple of contribution holidays if we become overfunded, if we are projected to have more than 3 months of reserves by the end of the contract period. I say all that, and we see this as a neutral response here because even though we are having more money that the company is putting in towards those contributions, it is not enough to maintain the current level of benefits. So there are some adjustments to the health and welfare benefits that each one of you will receive based on whether you're in plan A, B, C, or D. They're moderate changes, moderate adjustments to the benefits, and we'll go through those in the charts that are on page 7 and page 8. So you can look at your specific plan and see what the modifications are for your benefits. I want to move on to page 9, and that's where we talk about the health and welfare premiums. These are the weekly premiums that you pay in each week for your different levels of benefits. Going through starting on June 1st of 2025, there will be some increases to the premium sharing. If you're in Plan A or Plan B, June 1st of 2025, there'll be a $2 increase to the weekly premium that you pay in. If you're in Plan C or Plan D, it's a $1 increase for your weekly benefit. That'll go up again on June 1st of 2026. In the second year of the contract for Plans A and Plan B, that'll be a $3 increase to your weekly premium. And for Plan C and D, it'll be a $2 increase to your weekly premium for 2026. And then finally, in June 1 of 2027, Plans A and B will receive another $2 increase to the weekly premium, as well as Plan C and Plan D will receive a $1 increase to your weekly premium for benefits. All of those increases of the premium share, we see those as negatives. That is going to have a cost to it out of each one of our partners' pockets to pay for those benefits. There is one good thing I'd like to point out on our health and welfare benefits, and that is in Article 18.5 in regards to the Early Retirement Incentive Program, or ERIP. Right now, under your current contract, there's a handful of months that you are not able to, even if you're eligible, you're not able to go out on the early retirement incentive during the specific months, mostly around the summer holidays or through Christmas time, things like that. Under our current pension standard, the pension trustees have allowed for people that retire able to come back and work as many hours as they'd like if they'd want to continue working and start drawing their retirement. They're able to do this without any restrictions on their hours. So with that, at the bottom of page 10, you'll see the change to our ERIP program. And it's as long as the pension trustees are allowing you to work as many hours as you want as a retiree, then there are no longer going to be those months that are restricted when you can actually take that ERIP. If it ever goes back, if the pension trustees make that change where they are going to instill those restrictions again, then those same months would go back into effect at that time. I think most would agree that the most important thing in any proposal is the wage proposal. And our wage proposal starts on page 13. Throughout this contract, with most of the classifications, you'll see throughout the contract $1 each year of the contract. So that'd be at least a $3 increase for most classifications through this proposal. We see that as a positive. You'll see on page 13 in regards to the department managers. The current wage scale there, going up May 12th of 2025, you'll see the dollar increase, May 11th of 2026, and then another dollar increase May 10th of 2027 to reflect those $3 over the life of the contract. There are some classifications in these department managers, the center store lead that are hired after 1991, floral manager, salad bar manager, and specialty department managers that all have a little bit of a bigger increase in the first year. As the clerk wages go up, the company agreed that they needed to address some of the issues for the lower paid department managers there and bump those wages up here. So you'll see that in the first year of the contract as well. On page 15, you'll start seeing the wage brackets, and you'll see this throughout a lot of the classifications of the contract, starting with the full-time clerks. On the full-time clerk bracket on the top of page 15, you'll see the thereafter rates moving to 2110, 2210, and 2310, reflecting that dollar increase each year of the contract. The way the brackets work is that anybody that is working their way through the brackets, if you are not at a thereafter rate, but you're getting your wages based on the hours that you work, here, anytime that the date comes up, you'll slide over. So you'll have a lateral move and you'll maintain your hours towards your next raise. However, if you're in a position such as the 1555, which was the entry level position for full time, moving to 1575, you actually step down and across to that 1575 rate. And that means if you step down towards the next wage bracket, then your hours would zero out and you'd start beginning accumulating hours towards your next wage bracket at that time. But the clerk full-time employees would receive the dollar increase throughout the contract each May for those at the thereafter rate. So we see that as a positive in this contract. That'll be similar with the part-time employees on the top of page 16. Again, if you move down in the brackets, then your hours would be zeroed out. However, if it's just a lateral move throughout the brackets, then your hours towards your next increase will maintain so that you won't have to work the full 1,040 hours. But again, reflecting the dollar for those at the thereafter rate over the life of the contract. On page 16, you'll see the courtesy clerks. One of the things we do see this as a neutral effect because there is still an increase as the minimum wage goes up to $15 an hour starting in January of 2026. However, there aren't any other additional wage increases there, so that's what causes us to have a neutral effect. No one is losing anything. It's not a negative. However, it's not the same level of increases that we were hoping to receive or increases at all that we were hoping to have for the courtesy clerks. One last change on the bottom of page 16 is regarding employees that are designated as designated assistant department managers. Currently in your contract, that is, those people that are deemed the designated assistant department managers receive 15 cents above their wage rate in the contract. And we are increasing that premium under this contract proposal, and it'll be a dollar premium above your base rate. So that would be a positive effect for all of those that are deemed as the designated assistant department managers. As we move into the supplemental agreements, the meat, deli, and seafood departments in Washington, Wentzville, and Warrenton, same thing as before the clerks in the Metro contract. The brackets are exactly the same. Their dollar increases each year of the contract for the supplemental departments. The same goes for the supplemental and utility clerks. Similar brackets, but the wage scale is roughly about the same, that they're going to be dollar increases for the thereafter rates for each year of the contract as well. And now finally, we'll address the letter of understanding because we do have some changes in this proposal as well. On page 25, at the very top, you'll see letter of understanding number 1. There's a slight change. I made reference to it earlier when we talked about the jurisdiction language, and that the company is addressing a force majeure event. Under your current contract, they can use store management and other non-bargaining unit personnel that are in the stores to address an issue that could be accounted for. Something like a major weather situation comes up, a fire at the store, or other disaster. These things are addressed here in the letter of understanding number 1. And the reason we see this as a positive benefit is the company is going to treat any of these force majeure events similar as they do as the CTC, but without having the prior notice ahead of time. So under that, the employees will be notified if there's an issue that they're going to bring people from the corporate office or other non-bargaining unit personnel to help put the store back together or address customer needs. They're going to notify all employees at the affected stores, and those employees at the affected stores can work and maximize their hours to try and help during that time period. So again, if non-bargaining personnel are helping to put the store back together or help with customer service, then all of our partners will be able to maximize their hours, including overtime. So if you get that call, you can come in and maximize your hours too. That's what is addressed in letter of understanding number 1. Throughout the rest of the page 25, letters of understanding 11, 12, 13, and 14, and continuing on to the next page, those are all old classifications that there may still be some people that fall under these classifications. The main point I want to make on this is that they also receive the same wage increase as we have in the body of the contract. So those different classifications are also going to receive $1 each year of the contract for $3 overall. So with that, that's the last change we have in the proposal. I do want to say again, this is a fully recommended proposal. It comes with a full recommendation, unanimous recommendation from your bargaining committee. And again, there's a lot more positives in this contract, including the $3 over the life of the contract, and very few negatives with some of the benefit adjustments and premium share increases. But this is a full recommendation, and we hope that you'd be willing to vote yes on this contract too. Thank you.